For years, Harry Kane's career was the butt of every joke and meme on the internet. The ultimate goal scorer and individual accolade collector, destined to never lift a major trophy. But as England prepared to step onto the pitch for the 2026 World Cup in North America, the narrative has changed. England's all-time record scorer is now a winner, a domestic champion, regardless of the Bundesliga's perceived difficulty level, and sitting at the absolute peak of his powers. From Tuchel's tactics to England's squad depth and Kane's Ballon d'Or level of form, here are the reasons why this World Cup could be the pinnacle and defining moment of Harry Kane's career.
There is Harry Kane!
To understand the immense psychological freedom Harry Kane is playing with right now, you have to look at the utter footballing destruction he has just left behind in Germany. For over a decade at Spurs, it was easy to diminish his talent and phenomenal goal-scoring rate with the clear lack of silverware. I mean, there was a lot of truth to it, but his recent seasons with Bayern Munich have just seen his rate of scoring explode. I mean, look at this goals per 90 minutes chart. But now, he has the trophies to match. The 24-25 campaign saw him win his first league title. He added another this time around with the German Cup to match, and he has a ridiculous 146 goals from 147 games in all competitions since joining the club 3 years ago. Sure, he's been playing in a stronger team in a slightly weaker league, and yes, he's had the immense support of 𝗕𝗫𝗍𝗫, Musiala and the rest to help him do it, but he won't be alone this summer either, something we'll get onto in just a minute. But back to his individual qualities, and winning this season's golden shoe by hitting 36 in the Bundesliga alone has shown that at 32 years of age, Kane has completely shed the anxious weight of individual underachievement by doing what they said he couldn't. The domestic double was the perfect warm-up, but it does raise an even larger question. What happens when a striker who has spent his entire life being mocked for lacking a winning mentality suddenly arrives at a tournament with the golden touch and perhaps arrogance of a champion? Well, the sensible thing to do would be to build a team around such a player, and by analysing England's slightly controversial squad, you realise that Thomas Tuchel has done just that.
Harry Kane is England's priceless gem!
It feels like a lot of fans build squads like they're playing a video game, treating football as a collection of the most expensive talent available and assuming success will follow, sort of like they're doing at Real Madrid. Now, whilst football doesn't always work like that, international football almost definitely doesn't work like that. Instead, it's an exercise in puzzle building and problem solving. For example, if you pack a starting 11 with too many luxury playmakers, often the star men in their own teams at club level who all demand the ball to feet in the same exact zones, you don't build a dominant team, you build a highly congested nightmare. And this is something that clearly Tuchel wanted to avoid when he completely stunned the footballing world by omitting both Phil Foden and Cole Palmer from his final World Cup squad. I mean, I was shocked too. Leaving two of the Premier League's most decorated individual creators at home sounds like absolute insanity. But from a purely tactical perspective, this culling was the ultimate act of clarity, designed to liberate Harry Kane. The thing is, both Foden and Palmer are world-class attacking midfielders who instinctively drift in and out of the central pockets, finding space, receiving the ball, and trying to avoid being smothered in congested areas. But with Kane in the side, it's pretty clear to see his areas of influence when you look at his heat map from the last 2 seasons at Bayern Munich. He's in exactly the areas you'd normally find Foden and Palmer in. The issue here is that those two darting in and out of a congested midfield doesn't actually move the opposition's defensive structure too much. But when Kane does it, things change. This is because he is dropping deeper from a much higher starting point. Defenders are blindsided. One lapse in concentration leaves them isolated, and following Kane can pull them out of position, allowing for the supporting cast to penetrate in behind. Which then also brings up the second issue. That quick, directive, explosive movement in behind the defence just isn't Foden or Palmer's game. England's boss didn't pick the biggest English names out there. Instead, he curated the perfect tools tailored to specifically maximise the spatial intelligence of his captain. But what does that actually look like in action? Where does all this fit into the bigger tactical picture?
Is this the hat-trick moment? Harry Kane!
Now, Tuchel's predecessor, 𝗘𝗫𝗧𝗥𝗔-𝗧𝗏, as he's known to his mates, oversaw a more defensive system, where build-up was often static, and the movement not exactly what you'd call energetic. It meant that there was an over-reliance on Kane when he dropped deep to inject some sort of life into the build-up. Jude Bellingham was the one who routinely made lung-bursting runs to fill that space, but it was an exhausting, chaotic act of individual desperation that required Bellingham's clutch goal-scoring ability, rather than being a well-oiled, reliable machine. However, since the arrival of Tuchel, Kane's movement is just the start of the attacking process, whereby it's a signal, a trigger for those more advanced to get on their bikes and head straight for the space with direct vertical runs. We saw it in England's first game under the German. Kane and Bellingham were clearly such a threat after dropping deep that the Albanian defence didn't cover 𝗕𝗏𝗧𝗏𝗧𝗏𝗧's run beyond everyone from left back to get on the end of a through ball and score in his England debut. We also saw it a lot of the time with Tuchel's Chelsea, whereby during his UEFA Champions League winning tenure at Stamford Bridge, he deployed a slower, spatial master in 𝗘𝗫𝗧𝗏𝗧𝗏 as a central target before utilising the movement of 𝗕𝗫𝗏 Werner to stretch defensive lines out of shape. And now Tuchel is replicating this exact blueprint by surrounding Kane with genuine elite direct wingers who possess terrifying speed. Anthony Gordon is one of the fastest with astonishing top speed of 36.68 kilometers per hour. Marcus Rashford can hit 35.7 and 𝗦𝗶𝗴𝗍 registers at 35.3. This means that defenders have a huge decision to make. Follow Kane and leave the runner, hoping he or someone else doesn't find them with a pass, or follow the runner and leave Kane free, which I think is actually the worst option. As we've mentioned in a previous video, which you can check out here, a lot of damage at the World Cup, whether from a striker or midfield creator, is often done in deeper positions because poorer sides are waiting in a low block, defending their own box with their life. Remember Diego Forlan slapping in 30-yarders like it was nothing in 2010, or Messi and De Bruyne in 2022 threading through balls for fun. It seems like a smart idea to sit deep and deny the speedy English players the green grass to run into, but going too deep could leave Kane with space anywhere inside 25 to 30 yards of goal. And you don't want to do that. You just don't want to give him, of all people, that sort of room. Over the course of his career, he's outperformed his XG from outside the box by 18.5, placing him just below Messi's 19.4 and above Mbappé's 16.5. Pretty good company to be keeping. To bring this back to the whole core of the video, it's clear from Tuchel's selection that Kane performing well is being prioritised, which makes sense as he's the best player England have. But as we all know, football is a team game, and Harry Kane's legacy or England's success can't rely on just him, which is why Tuchel's squad also contains an insurance policy. Video aside for a second, and here's a hypothetical question for you. Imagine you're on your holidays for some reason during the World Cup, or travelling somewhere for work and you can't get your World Cup fix. You've got your TV licence sorted to watch all the coverage in the UK, but not abroad. So what do? Well, our office friends at Tom's Guide have the answer because they've tested a wide range of VPNs, and NordVPN stands out as a strong option. Fast, reliable, and it comes with a 60-day money-back guarantee, enough to cover the entire World Cup tournament, so you could try it risk-free. And the best bit, for all FourFourTwo viewers, there is also an exclusive offer available. All you have to do is click the link in the description to learn more.
It's Harry Kane, Kane with a shot, Kane scores!
If Harry Kane has executed his role, scored and controlled a match for 60 minutes, England are looking comfortable, then Tuchel can immediately hook his captain, preserving his NG for later on in the tournament. And even if he's had a poor game, the same thing can still happen because of the two strikers waiting in the wings, Ollie Watkins and Ivan Toney. Now, of course, it's not just Toney and Watkins, it's this whole supporting cast in the squad that means arguably, for the first time in his career, Kane has a safety net that he never had at Spurs nor England, whereby he doesn't have to run himself into the ground to keep the team's dreams alive single-handedly. He can conserve his physical energy, allowing him to remain completely sharp and not to be worrying about taking corners, like in Euro 2016. Of course, there's plenty of ifs and buts along the way, but if we are really talking about winning the World Cup being career-defining for Harry Kane, it won't just be because he lifts the biggest tournament in world football as captain, nor just because he comes off the back of a ridiculous season in front of goal with a domestic double to boot, but also because these things could, and probably would, unlock the ultimate individual prize. And that, of course, ladies and gents, is the Ballon d'Or. Not since Michael Owen in 2001 has an Englishman won the award, and looking at the votes, nobody else has really come close. But now, in 2026, the individual hierarchy of world football has actually cracked wide open. The 2010s were completely and utterly dominated by Ronaldo and Messi, as I'm sure you're well aware of. But now we're in this odd place where the trophy is actually up for grabs. There are no clear favourites every single year. Nobody's won it back-to-back since 2021. Now, I know that Kane is missing a Champions League medal, which seems to go hand in hand with most previous winners of the Ballon d'Or. However, If he can carry even a modest fraction of his historic club form to this summer's tournament, the combination of a World Cup trophy and a 61-goal domestic double might just make him completely untouchable. This summer, Kane could redefine not only his record, but his entire footballing legacy. The stage is set, the support system is immaculate, the tactical plans have been laid, the form is red hot, and history is waiting to be written. All that's left is a simple task of actually doing it.